The original Secret Invasion is an event that came up in Marvel Comics in 2008. It was an event that had been built up for many years, with hints of it going as far back as the Avengers Disassembled event in 2005. In the world of comics, the event started when the Avengers seemingly killed off Elektra and she changed into a Skrull, which is where our story is going to begin. The other facts that you need to know to fully understand what's happening is that Steve Rogers has been killed at the ending of Civil War. Bucky has taken over as Captain America in the mainstream spotlight, and Tony Stark is currently the head of the S.H.I.E.L.D. organization. This is Comicstorian. We take comic book classics and current issues, and I create audio dramas about them. The purpose is to help you understand what is happening in the world of comics, and to know what to add to your collection at your local comic book store or digital retailer. We have 2 shows, complete stories containing 2 to 3 issues which feature the title, while full stories are long-form videos combining all of the shorter ones into a movie-style format. Today's video is Secret Invasion 2008, issues 1 and 2. Now let's get started. Years ago, the Skrulls gathered on a distant world. The throne world had been destroyed and their armada was in ruins. The warriors gather around their queen. The scriptures were right. Here's what shall be done, the queen tells those that gathered. Now, on Earth, Tony looks down at the body before him and he turns to Reed Richards and Hank Pym. The Skrull Empire, they're here now, living amongst us, undetectable. He informs them that the Avengers went to Japan and Elektra was killed, but when she died, she changed into a Skrull. Elektra, the ninja assassin, was a Skrull. For how long? Pym asks, but Tony tells them that he doesn't know because no one could detect that she wasn't actually human. Why couldn't anyone tell? Reed asks, and Tony looks at the 2 smartest men on the planet and tells them that he needs to figure that out. Because this is just the beginning. I know it. Meanwhile, aboard the Peak, the Sword space station that monitors for extraterrestrial threats, everyone is greeting Dum Dum Dugan, who has come to inspect them? The station was put on alert as the alarms blare at the approach of an alien spacecraft. What have we got? Agent Miranda asks as she steps up to the consoles. Sword agents are tracking a Skrull transport ship as it barrels towards Earth. Coordinate estimation puts it right smack dab in the Savage Land, one of her officers shouts. She nods. Get me Tony Stark, now! At the lab, Tony continues to work with Hank and Reed, his armor scanning them the whole time, trying to discern if they're actually Skrulls in disguise. But he's interrupted by Brand's call, warning him of the crash landing. Tony nods, heading out the door, not telling Reed or Hank why he's leaving. He flies out of the lab, getting on the comms and asking Spider-Woman to gather the Avengers for a mission. Is this it? Jessica asks. We'll know soon. Stark out, Tony tells her. Jessica immediately reaches for her phone and dials, not bothering to hide the fact from Jarvis, who stands nearby. Skrull ship crash land in the Savage Land. Tony's gathering the troops. At this point, I trust you more than Stark. You might want a head start. Wouldn't you want a head start? She asks before hanging up. At the hideout of the Secret Avengers, Luke Cage hangs up his phone, turning to his team. Are you guys ready to piss off everyone? He asks. It doesn't take long for the group to reach Avengers Tower, where Spider-Man quickly launches a web and drops Black Widow. The team rushes forward with the prepped Quinjet boarding it. Man, Natasha's gonna kill me when she wakes up. We used to go out. Clint jokes, and Spider-Man looks at him as he takes a seat. Who haven't you gone out with, Clint? 3 minutes later, Tony arrives with his team. Where the hell is my Quinjet? He asks as he cuts Natasha free. Luke's team flies across the planet at a top speed, quickly reaching the Savage Land, with Tony and his flyers following at a much slower rate. As they land, Spider-Man looks at Luke Cage. How do we know this isn't a Skrull trap? He asks, and Luke looks out the windows at the prehistoric jungle that now surrounds them. I hope it's a Skrull trap. I'm so sick of hiding. I'm sick of not trusting each other. I miss my wife and kid. I want to put this right. I want things to go back to normal, Luke tells him. The team drops in the jungle, with Wolverine taking point as he follows his nose. Kazar lives here. We should find him. Spider-Man calls as he whips through the trees, the team passing a destroyed lab. What's this? Echo asks, and Luke tells her that this is where the new Avengers had their first battle. Let's go. This ain't what we're here for, Wolverine tells them. And they continue on until they step out into a clearing, finding a large, crashed Skrull ship. Are you getting anything, Logan? Luke asks, but Wolverine shakes his head. The heroes looking at the ship, discussing whether they should open it. Whatever we're going to do, we gotta do it now, because we ain't alone anymore. Wolverine tells them as he looks up, and Tony and his team have arrived and are now descending upon them. Step away from the ship, you're all under arrest, Tony shouts over the loudspeakers. The two teams stand off with each other. What, now you're claiming ownership of the Savage Land? Clint asks, and Miss Marvel looks at the gathering of heroes. Come on, guys, you're smart enough to know when to stand down. Luke, seriously, stand down, Carol tries to tell her friend. Luke thinks about it for a moment before turning back to the ship. Nah, I'm opening it. Explaining that the fact that Tony doesn't want him to means that he thinks he should open it. Aboard the sword ship, Peak, Agent Brand and Dum Dum Dugan are watching the live feed. What does this mean? She asks. I think it means that Luke Cage thinks that Stark's a Skrull, reaching up and taking off his bowler hat when his eyes suddenly goes white. He loves you, Dugan whispers. The Peak suddenly explodes in a ball of fire that quickly goes out into space. Agent Brand looks around in shock. She and her crew are saved by the oxygen bubbles that now surround them. Meanwhile, over at the Avengers Tower, Jarvis steps forward, putting a strange disc into the Avengers operating system. He loves you, he says as warnings begin to flash across the screen. Meanwhile, back in the Savage Land, Tony's armor begins to spark and lock up. He falls to the ground screaming. Everyone looks at him in shock, and he shouts for them all to get back. Carol rushes forward. Helicarrier 1, this is Miss Marvel. We're in the Savage Land, and we need an immediate evac of Tony Stark, she shouts, but there is no answer. Across the world, everything connected to Tony's system has been infected. And onboard Helicarrier 1, Maria Hill orders the crew to evacuate as the ship begins to drop out of the sky, plummeting towards New York City. Stark's plants and satellites all go out across the world. The prisons that are now controlled by the system since Stark took over as the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. are suddenly opened, with supervillains quickly rioting and escaping. At Thunderbolt's Mountain, Norman Osborn is aware of this attack, the systems suddenly beginning to spark, and he orders his team to leave. But the wall suddenly explodes outward to reveal Mar-Vell as he flies towards them. Meanwhile, over in New York, Susan Richards seemingly returns from a vacation, with everyone shocked to see her. But she walks past them all without a word, stepping into Reed's lab and activating a massive portal to the negative zone. He loves you, she whispers as the portal begins to grow rapidly, eating everything up in the Baxter building as it grows. Susan! Johnny screams as he bursts into flames to protect his niece and nephew. Meanwhile, back in the Savage Land, the teams have lowered Tony to the ground, groans of pain escaping his lips as his armor locks up. I'm taking him, Sentry says, ordering the others to remove his armor, but Wolverine suddenly sniffs the air and turns. Everyone looks up at the same time, their eyes widening in shock. The ship has opened, and inside it reveals some of the Earth's mightiest heroes, clad in costumes that are decades old. Oh my stars and garters, New Beast exclaims. I was about to say sweet Christmas, New Luke Cage shouts. Are we back on Earth? New Miss Marvel asks as she looks at Captain America, an individual that is supposed to be dead right now. Yeah, I was about to say, because I know who I am, but who are these guys supposed to be? The new Wolverine says as he looks at the surprised heroes who were already in the Savage Land. But back up in space, Agent Brand is trying to call for help, warning that she and her crew only have 10 minutes of oxygen. But her words trail off as she looks up in shock, seeing a fleet of Skrull ships appearing and rocketing towards the Earth. Back over in Stark's lab, Reed suddenly looks up. I think I got it. I know how they made themselves undetectable. He looks at Hank with a smile, but his friend is already aiming an alien blaster at him. I do, Hank tells him with a nod, firing the weapon, which hits. Reed's body then disassembles, turning Reed into silly string that drapes over the lab. He even loves you, Hank says as his face begins to morph, and he becomes a Skrull once again. Back over in the Savage Land, the two groups of heroes are now facing off, with the returned older heroes believing that this might be another Skrull trick. Oh, you cut the bull, Luke shouts, but it's Ares who orders the Avengers to retreat. Stark, Danvers, all of you Avengers, you go back to the mainland now. This is a trap, Ares says, hefting his axe and telling them that he will hold off the invaders as long as he can, but Luke refuses. You all need to get ready to get your asses kicked, he snaps as he rushes forward, the secret Avengers and the Avengers following his lead, the Avengers clashing with the newly returned, decades-old heroes. As the blast of energy flies through the air, Carol grabs Tony, flying him away from danger. Tony, I know you're hurting, but you've got to get it together, man. We need you. Back on the ground, the heroes continue to fight, kicking and punching and hitting each other with energy blasts. Clint in his Ronin armor whirling around at the older costumed versions of himself. He knocks him out with a blow from his nunchucks, reaching for his old bow and quiver. Like I haven't been through enough this year. He snaps, grabbing the weapons, rushing towards the tree line, avoiding more energy attacks and superpowered heroes rushing towards him. This is all kinds of crazy! He hisses as he fires the arrows, hitting Beast in the shoulder and Emma Frost in the thigh. He whirls around, firing another arrow at Cap, but the Sentinel of Liberty whirls around, blocking the arrow with his shield. Damn, maybe that is... Clint whispers, but the entire fight is interrupted as a T-Rex comes roaring into the clearing and scatters the fighting heroes. Nearby, Tony asks Carol to fly him to the lab that the team passed earlier. It's the mutated Citadel. It belongs to the indigenous people of the Savage Land. There was a laboratory there once upon a time. Hopefully it's still there, he says, and they land inside and he quickly looks around. I've been infected with what I must assume is an alien virus. All of my tech is damaged. I have to rebuild from start. He coughs and he staggers towards the console, telling Carol that she needs to go back to the mainland and find out what's going on. What are you going to do? Carol asks him, and he looks up at her as he begins to get to work. I built my first armor with a lot less than this. I'm gonna do the one thing the Skrulls can't imitate. Use my brain. Carol finally nods, flying out of the lab, leaving Tony to his work. Back in the jungle, Clint has taken to the trees, readying his bow as he tracks other heroes, unsure of who his friends are and who are the Skrulls. On the jungle floor, Wolverine pops his claws, stepping out to face the same-looking Luke Cage that he came here with. I don't care what you look like. You come near me and I'll gut you. Except you can't. Unbreakable skin. Luke points out, and they both turn to see a Spider-Man that is getting squashed by the T-Rex's foot, his death already morphing him back into a Skrull. Good. That means they're all Skrulls. I just don't see the angle. What's the Skrulls' plan? Luke continues, and Wolverine nods, pointing out that the Skrull have them fighting a war when they can't trust the soldiers next to them. That he thinks they're trying to take control of the planet without destroying it. But Wolverine suddenly turns, seeing a Mockingbird leaning over the body of Skrull Hawkeye. He rushes forward, his claws prepared, and tears are falling from Mockingbird's eyes. I knew we had a Skrull or two in our group before we crashed, but man, this pisses me off. I'm not a Skrull! She tells Wolverine as she pulls off her mask. He grabs her, lifting her into the air, and an arrow comes through the trees, hitting him in the shoulder. Back away from the girl! Clint says as he leaps down on the Ronin outfit. He rushes forward, drawing another arrow, aiming it at Bobby's head. Tell me something about October 12th! He hisses, and she's shocked to hear Clint's voice. October 12th! He snaps. She lowers her head, revealing that she and Clint lost their daughter before she was born. They thought her birthday would have been October 12th. Clint pulls off his mask and stares at her. You died, he whispers, and she begins to cry. No, I didn't, she tells him and embraces him, and they both kiss, until finally Clint pulls away, looking at Wolverine. I know, but this is my call. There's no way that they would know what she just said. Nobody knows that. Bobby looks at them, informing them that the other Skrulls must have infiltrated their group. But that's Captain America for sure. He's the one that got us back to Earth. But the others know the truth about Cap, that at the end of Civil War, he was shot dead. Back in New York, the young Avengers aren't too sure what to do. Not sure how they can help as the Negative Zone portal continues to grow and swallow the Baxter building. But as the ships begin to land, the Skrulls begin to invade the city, armed with weapons and abilities of the heroes of Earth. Everyone bring a costume? Patriot says as he looks at his friends. And that is the first episode of Secret Invasion. Now, we're going to be moving through this one quickly, so if you want to see the next episode, hit that like button and subscribe and turn on your notifications. We cover Marvel and DC comic books on most weekends, and on that note, let's close out today's episode. This is Benny, and I'm out! Also, I'm not a Skrull.